What's the answer? What's the work? Is the work A, consists of or includes the erection or extension of a relevant building?
No, it's a brand new building. Brand new building.
Brand new building. If it's an erection of a building, Reg 38 applies. If it's the refurbishment of building, Reg 38 does not apply unless it's carried out in connection with the relevant change of use.
So this is a fit out.
Doesn't apply unless it's a relevant change of use.
Wow. Okay.
But so hang on.
Almost nobody knows that, but it's the truth, and that's what the law says. Reg 38 1 A and B.
But stepping back, if it's a new build, the Regulation 38 information should have been handed over.
It's not if the project is if the building work, if the application for building work is for the fit out and not for the new build, then probably it doesn't apply. If the application was the whole building, including the fit out, it does apply.
So how would the landlord get the information that they need at handover?
They have to ask for it in contract.
Yeah, I'd go back to the contract, George. This is part of the problem we've got, because there's all these competing bits and pieces. I hadn't realised that, Mark. Thank you for being clear. But it's a nonsense, isn't it?
It is a nonsense, isn't it? Yeah.
They had a chance to put Reg 38 right when they did the variations to the building regs, and for some reason they didn't do it, probably because they didn't realise there was a problem. Because very few people seem to read the law. I'm just obsessed with it.
You're an encyclopedia, Mark.
George, does that answer your question then?
Well, it does, but it certainly makes a difference to what we're talking about today. Because if the as-built information doesn't require
isn't required by law, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we're saying it should be in the contract.
Yeah.
It won't just be this occasion. You think of all the competent persons works and everything else. There's lots of stuff that they are supposed to provide certain bit of information, but nothing very much.
Wow.
I think we might just get raise that. We'll just wait 2 minutes, George, and then we'll raise that question again. Mark, if you'd answer it, just so everybody else gets that, and then we'll get on with the day job. Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Morning, all.
Morning, buongiorno.
Everyone in good order?
Oh, yeah. Good morning.
The other thing, George, which is really interesting, I find it interesting, is there is no duty in relationship to HRB for anybody to provide anything to anybody in relationship to information. It's just the client has a duty to gather it. Well, except the PD needs to hand over the golden thread at Gateway 2. But after that point, it's up. Things are updated. But actually, anything out with that, there's no duty to provide BFLO. The client has to provide it to the client needs to provide it to the AP or RP, but nobody needs to provide it to them. So there's real problems in the legislation. You can't assume that people will have to hand over information because the law doesn't require it.
Well, let's do it now. We've got most people on the call. Nata, good to see you again. I haven't forgotten your offer to tidy up and prettify. I've got to ask your permission. Do you mind if I ask George for your email so I can contact you?
No, it's absolutely fine. I'll put it in the chat. Apologies, I'm traveling, so I'm going to be in and out with the reception. But yeah, I'll put
that's great. Thank you.
Chat.
And I thought we'd do one more stage before having to ask you to do that, but that would be great. George, ask the question again while everybody's here, and Mark can give the slightly surprising response.
Okay, so if there's a new build office building
George has one.
Yeah, where let's say it's a 11-story office building, hypothetically, with 350 spaces. It's been delivered in 2 stages. There's been a base build, and then there's been the fit out, fairly normal, I would say. And therefore, our clients inheriting the whole thing. So that's been delivered in 2 stages. And the question I've got is the Regulation 38, or the fire safety information. I thought that you would need to deliver the Regulation 38 information for the finished building, which would be because when they do the fit out, they are taking wide areas and then putting lots of smaller office layouts in there, which I would have thought changes the layout, and therefore could impact on fire strategy. But they may also have moved some sprinkler systems. They may have moved some other partitioning and things like that. So the question I've got is whether there is a legal requirement under Regulation 38 for them to provide that information. And certainly, you know, as Gary said earlier, and I think we all thought that was the case, but what Mark's saying is that isn't the case, or may not be.
May not be. I think we have to start from the position is Reg 38 relates to building work. So the question is, what is the building work? And if the building work to which the application applies is the fit out of the building, then I would argue on the basis of Reg 38, it doesn't apply, because Regulation 38 applies where the building work consists or includes the erection or extension of a relevant building. And that's a building to which Part B applies or will apply, and is carried out in connection with a relevant change of use of such a building. So therefore, if it's neither of those, if the building work is the fit out, it's neither of those things, and therefore Regulation 38 doesn't apply. Now, you could make arguments that the building work is in 2 parts, but there again, it's how you. I think if it's 2 separate pieces of work, it's hard to make that argument.
It's
dancing on the head of a
situation.
pin, Mark. Could
Yeah.
I not say that includes the erection or extension of a relevant building? Is it not extension of the building? It's extending the building work, isn't it?
No, I don't think that's the intention.
That wasn't the question, but you could read it's an extension of the building work, couldn't you?
I think you'd need to get a lawyer to know whether that. I think that's stretching it, but it is a problem because very few people understand what that reg actually says, and so it's how you interpret that law. And I haven't got any test cases to judge it any further than what I've said.
So
Paul is going to.
You could be talking about installation of a sprinkler system. You could be talking about a fire detection warning system being replaced, and it doesn't fall under Regulation 38. Amazing.
Well, I mean, if that's the thing. I mean, my thing is George would have to go back to the contract, which should suggest that they one thing, which is part of the reason we've undertaken the work we are. Paul Oakley. Paul's got his hand up. Paul? Can't hear you, you're on mute. Yeah, there you go.
I think he's probably having a problem.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we can, Paul.
So yeah, microphone was muffing around. So the base bill contract, would that have a requirement to comply with the Reg 38, Mark?
Yeah, because it's the erection of a building.
Yes.
A relevant building, so that applies. It's just you have to start from what is the building work, and because it's in 2 parts, the building work is the base build, and then the next piece. Unless the application being made, I would argue, applies to both bits of it, and it just happens to be separated. But that's not normally how you do it.
Paul, sorry, Peter, go, and then we're stopping this and getting back to what I invited you to attend to. It's just rather an illustrative reason for the work we're trying to do.
I would just reinforce good afternoon. I would just reinforce the point that Mark just made. I think that a building is not complete until it's fitted out, such that the base build is a contractual requirement and a regulation 38, and the building is never finished until the fit out is complete. So I personally would think that regulation 38 would be argued to apply.
Well, there we go. Right, team. That's it. I think the first answer, George, is to go back and say, is this professional? And Matt, you may like to threaten to go very public with the name of the company who's giving you that advice, because I should think it'd be very bloody embarrassing.
Well, it is.
I read an article about Ardmore who's having a problem now. I'm going to share the document, and I'm going to hopefully you've all had a copy of it and you've had a chance to read it. But we'll go through as we normally do. I'm trying to get through again. If I miss something in the chat, just interrupt me, please. But I'm just going to rattle through as we do, because I'm trying to get to the point where we are agreeing the minimums. If you remember that chapter about how do we validate this information, I have adapted various bits of information, judging from the comments I've received, the comments I've picked up, the chat and the what have you. So hopefully I've interpreted correctly. There was an element of a discussion that if we go too hard on these specific electronic digital data, and perhaps it was suggested that we added into the forward, which I have done, to state that it needs to be aligned to at least, yeah. So hopefully that helps for that particular comment. So I've just put it in there where we're talking about the work encapsulated in this document can be taken forward and contribute to, for example, these British standards and others. So we're trying to highlight them and the digital, yeah. I'm hoping, unless anybody's got particular, I'm going to go horse in the middle of this, that the forward that you've read and the scope in the intent are now, everyone's happy with it. The contractual and legal consideration, that is simply saying caveat emptor, but we'll get another lawyer to look at it. It's been looked at every time, but we do it. The acknowledgements, I'm hoping everyone who's on that is happy they're on that, they're represented correctly. If not, please tell me. Definition specification, that's the bit we decided on and set in stone 2 sessions ago, and we've now moved on to the, excuse me, the minimum levels. So I'm going to let everybody read that for 30 seconds and then we'll move it forward to hopefully pick this up, that there are these minimum levels. But since I can see George is reading it for the first time, I'm taking you as the marker, George. When you've got to the end, I'll move it on. Okay?
No, that's good. I think that's good, yeah.
Everyone happy with that? We'll move to the next bit.
May I say something, Anthony?
Of course you can, Franco. Yeah, welcome. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. Data format. Okay. We are talking about the paragraph under where possible and feasible, all digital data should align and be interoperable with ISO 19650.
Where are we with that?
This is the fifth bullet. Bullet point. Okay.
Yeah.
In my humble opinion, the data format is another concept from the one deriving from the rest of the paragraph. The rest of the paragraph tells me that the the data should be what is important for the management of the building. The data format, for me, maybe I'm wrong, is something else. I'm questioning the term data format. Data format can be interpreted in different ways.
I think did we not pick that up last time, and I shoved it in where that yellow bit is to cover that point, Franco, that where possible and feasible. So digital data should align and be interoperable.
Interoperable.
So it's taken it away from being a bit more of an instruction to, because we know that a lot of people who will be dealing with this information will not have sophisticated electronic systems.
Is data schema a better phrase or a different phrase?
Okay, why don't we define the term? Forget the rest of the paragraph. What is the data? What does data format mean? Or what is the intended meaning of data format? Can anybody suggest something? Because for me, it means something. It's, I don't know. What I'm trying to say is that the rest of the paragraph is more about, as I said, what is useful for the person responsible for the management of the building, which is, in my opinion, not the same thing as the data format.
Okay, can we hold that one, Franco? And I'll just go to the other people to raise questions on the same point, yeah?
Okay.
So the question is the expression data format correct or incorrect? And if it's incorrect, then what else are we going to put? Mark Snelling.
I'm asking a question that's actually sits before that, and it's part something we were talking about earlier. Is I noticed somewhere as you were scrolling through, all information should be digital. Now, that precludes those at the bottom end of the industry who...
No, we said, Mark, I'm just going to jump in there. It says where possible.
No, it doesn't. It says should be digital. Go down, you just got it there.
Where possible and feasible.
No, that does, but the other line a bit further, wherever you scroll past it twice so far, it's at the bottom bullet somewhere. I can't see where it is now.
It's slightly higher up, Anthony. Yeah, I spotted that as well. So if you go up a little, keep going.
Oh yeah.
Keep going. There we are.
There.
This is 6.3. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that does preclude those who are at the bottom end who aren't doing digital, which is not ideal for.
Yeah, no, it's that's escape because that had been locked down, so it's escaped. Agreed. That's got to change because we've gone beyond that now. So thank you for picking that up, Mark. Does that answer your question? We've got to remove that requirement. If anything, we'll say where feasible or where possible, preferably, but nothing more than that. Mr. Taylor, John Taylor.
Hi, yes, hi, sorry, I've lost my screen there, so yeah, I picked up the same point really on the kind of data formats, and was wondering, I mean, could we have some examples of formats, just to really clarify what it is, and also on the previous sentence, well, it also just noted as early as possible. I just thought that maybe again there could be a recommendation for when as early as possible what early as possible means. Should there be should the client be able to specify this pre-tender?
I'm going to hold that bit, John, the second bit, because I want to bring that into the end of this discussion. So work out what it is we're not meaning, because the next stage is now we know what we want, how do we get it, which is that question.
Yeah. So I think the data format, I think that, the intent is right, that it should be predetermined. And I guess it's that question of what does that mean? Is it digital? Is it PDFs? Is it some sort of database that's interoperable with existing systems? Do you have a tool that you use? I think there's just some examples we could put in there. and then clarifying that next point about interoperable with ISO 9650, which I'm not sure what that really means. Interoperable with, I guess it aligns with the conventions of 9660.
I'm questioning that as well, John, actually. It's
right. Okay. Well, that was an agreed point last time. I haven't gone any further than repeat that. So we're still deciding on what does data format mean. Peter, you're next in line.
Thank you. That sentence, I wonder if we just change it completely to relate to the output that we're trying to achieve. If you relate it rather than data format to the actual output, that may address the question.
So dictate to me what you think.
Sorry, I've lost the page itself, and bear with me.
I think it's page 4, top of.
Page 4, top of.
Or second para, third para. Do you want to?
Should be, yeah. Data, for example, data format should be printed. Oh no, it's only an example, actually, isn't it? The client for the design and construction building work should engage with those responsible for the management of the building, etc., as early as possible in order to determine any of the matters described below. For example, data format should be predetermined and specific to end. Yeah, so you could, in effect, you could just delete that sentence. For example, data format. You don't need to say it because you go on to then describe it.
Are people in agreement with that comment?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I personally don't have any issue with the sentence itself because I like the idea that it's predetermined and specific to end user needs, but I agree that you then go on into the bullet points to describe it. So I guess it's superfluous in that sense.
Okay, thank you. Franco, you're next with the hand up.
Yes.
Mr. Jeffers, no.
I have a question about the third bullet point.
Sorry, can we just deal with that? Does that sort out data format, your earlier point, Franco?
Well, I agree with the fact that with the suggestion to delete the element of text that you've just stricken through. I am still wondering if the intended meaning of data format is crystal clear. This is my personal opinion, because data format in data engineering, if you ask Tim Aiken, he will probably tell you what data format means. Right. So if I am honest, I'm not 100% happy about the intended meaning of data format. In the context,
do you have a more neutral expression that you would use in those circumstances?
Well, I would leave the paragraph. I wouldn't add what follows the word format, because data format itself, for me, is a concept that maybe is explained in the glossary. What follows data format is about the content rather than the format. I don't know if I've explained myself.
So data content should be predetermined. Do people agree with that? Is that what you're saying, Franco? Data content should be predetermined.
Yes, I think that we're talking about two different things, you know. The format and the format of what?
Yeah, no, I get that. Content's probably a better word there. What do other people think?
I've just posted something, Anthony, and I think tenants have accepted best practice information management as agreed with the client. It's the client's information at the end of the day.
Sorry, you just posted something, have you? Sorry, I can't see it. I haven't seen it.
So you know, it's the client's requirements. The client should have a requirements document for information management.
Right. So, sorry, Gary, read out what you put there. I can't see it.
Well, I think it's a question of having an overarching statement within the document that's not too prescriptive. So I've just put the tenants have accepted best practice information management as agreed with the client. It's the client's information, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Gary. then I've got, who we got there? Gordon.
Thanks, Anthony. This paragraph in terms of the whole as early as possible as well. I think I would repoint that in terms of, you know, getting towards the right requirements from the very beginning. I don't think you need to stipulate the who in this. You need to, you know, quantify the process. At the end of the day, if the operator's requirements are involved from the beginning, then the operator doesn't need to get involved until the appropriate point in the engagement. So I would say I would try and flip that around and not be thinking from the operator perspective, more the requirements of the life cycle need. And I don't like interoperable with ISO 19650. There's much more than 19650 out there. I think you can have normative references or stuff like that to point to 19650, but it's not the whole picture is the bottom line. So I would kind of steer
Take
clear
that
of
one out.
that.
Yeah,
type
you're
of
the
statement.
expert there, right? Okay.
Well, I'm not dictating that. It's what the collective
No.
thinks. I'm just giving you
Well,
my
you're the
opinion.
second person to say it this morning. You know,
I was going to say that as well, Gordon. So I put my hand
That's
down
the
because that's pretty much what I was going to say. Yeah.
Can I
I think
disagree?
we can cross-refer to
disagree and
these
say it
things
should be there.
somewhere else. Yeah.
Can I disagree and say it should be there?
But
can.
interoperable with 19650, that doesn't mean anything to me.
It should be much more than 19650.
Yeah.
You can't, if you're going to list what it should be
Interoperable.
interoperable, you would need to extend that into everything that's in the IMI framework, for example. It's very dangerous to limit it to just 19650, in my opinion.
Yeah, okay, reference the IMI framework then. That way, this document is brought into the information management framework as a whole, rather than being an outlier.
Does anybody have a explanation of the IMI framework? Was the information management? I don't know what that is.
It's moved on
from the information.
UK BIM framework.
Lawrence, could I ask you to write in the chat an appropriate sentence and a link to the IMA framework where somebody might find that? Okay. Not necessarily the whole document, but wherever the URL that one would find it, then I can add it in somewhere appropriately. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'll stick it.
Thank you very much. Franco.
Third bullet point above 7.1. Okay.
Above. Right here. So this
above,
one.
Yes. Change control. Control. I am wondering if it is really important from the management of the building viewpoint to keep track of all the changes that have led to an as-built version of the documentation. If I put myself in the shoes of FM operator maintainer, I don't know if I'm really interested in all the history that was behind the point in time when something was agreed, because there may have been lots of negotiations. I suggest this, then we change it, and it may become too much. The ultimate objective of me as an operator maintainer is to make sure that the information I get reflects what I'm getting, the assets.
I think the point that was being made there, Franco, was at the point in time I'm going to get the initial one, whatever it is, as you say, when whatever it is installed or built or what have you, then there's still going to be changes over the life cycle, aren't there?
Okay, maybe I haven't explained myself. What I mean is that my interpretation, and maybe I'm wrong, of this bullet point is that the receiver of the information should see also the history, the change control, that any element of information went through, right?
Yeah.
We all know that you start from, there are some funny pictures of what was intended at the beginning, what you get at the end. You know this sling. You must have seen this picture. So, what my question is the operator and maintainer really interested in knowing the history of these changes throughout maybe 2, 3, 4 years of negotiations and changes? I think, maybe I'm wrong, that he or she is interested only in making sure that what the information he or she gets is reflecting the reality, the as-built situation.
Yeah, I don't think I was. I think I was responding, Franco, to say if you've got 2 or 3 years while you're building it, but then you've got 15 years. So let's say it was completed and handed over at year 3.
Yes.
10 years on from there are still going to be changes when people fiddle with the building.
Yeah, that's something else. But I'm talking about the as-built information that typically goes into the O&M manual. Then during the 50, 100 years, maybe the building is completely changed. That will require another form of management of the information. But if we
agreed, but the point here, Franco, that I think was being made last time, and I was going back, is because there was discussion, because whatever point in time is going to change. The point is that every time anybody does any work on this building, you'll start with version 1, you're going to end up with version 220 when the building is demolished, but we still need to understand where it's all come from. So it's recording this.
Okay. All right. So if we are talking in absolute terms, if we are talking about this very, very important point in time when a contractor hands over the assets to the facility management, O&M, or whatever you call them, if we are not talking about what I've just said, then what is written is correct. If we are talking about what I've just said, then in my opinion, it may be too much.
Okay, now point taken. Yeah. Gordon?
To be honest, I was much on what Franco's just said. This isn't a management standard. So the as-built state doesn't need to have the iteration element on the log thereafter. In my opinion, we're like, don't get me wrong, in terms of FM operations, you absolutely need to have that, to the right level of information need record. But that's not what this piece of work is, the scope of this piece of work. So I don't think we need to actually make that bullet point at all.
Anybody else got views?
Sorry, I should have put my hand up.
No, just interrupt.
It's very so Joe Weston from Wilmot Dixon, Tier 1 contractor. Obviously, change control is a term that's come in with the high risk building regulations. So it's a prescriptive, it's an approved document. It's an approved document at Gateway 2 and at Gateway 3, and becomes part of that golden thread to demonstrate that obviously the changes have then been reflected into the approved documents. The approved documents being the as-built information, drawings, plans, specifications, etc. So I think, and obviously from our organisation point of view, we're adopting it on non-HRBs as well because we think it's sensible. So I think the change control, we hear that is potentially, it's beyond that building control approval. So picking up on Franco's point, it's not that design development up to that building control approval stage. It's during the construction phase, which is what we're wrestling with here most of the time, is what gets approved gets built. And I think that's I think that point should stay. But being explicit about change control from that point of that initial building control approval, if we want to keep
what you're saying, if I'm understanding it, Joe, is we get what I've termed in my little note there to myself, version 1 is actually what's handed over on completion of whatever the work is, point 1. After that, you should be keeping a note of what's changed.
Yeah, so obviously there's a point at that change happens during the construction phase at which you then deliver your as-built information. So it's a good audit trail to see what decisions were made around that change. And then from that, once it's handed over and operational, there may well be further change that happens through the running and of that building, which
So
becomes something different again. Yeah.
So you think the secondary bit should be recorded, but anything prior to the initial handover should not?
No, I think that the change control should be logged from point of building control approval to inform the as-built. Yeah, I do think it should be. I don't know if I've made myself clear on that.
Yeah, no, I think so.
Yeah.
Well, once you got through the equivalent to Gateway 3, that's locked. Bonk. So that's fine, because that's what is delivered to you, whoever you are.
Yeah.
And HRB are moving this proverbial boiler from floor 1 to floor 6. Yeah. That's what you've been given. Anything you do from there on in should be logged against that collection of information. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I think I've understood that. Hopefully I have. Gordon.
I'm not disagreeing with the bullet point in terms of what it's saying. It's just it's in the wrong place in the document.
Okay.
You know, this needs defined earlier on in the specifications, and therefore it shouldn't be handled at this point. In my opinion, like I say, I'm okay with what the bullet point is, but it should be defined earlier, basically.
I agree.
Hang on, let me see if I can change my thing. Joan.
I'm going to be a little bit controversial, because we're trying to write this for every size of project.
Correct.
I'm not entirely sure that this is workable. I think that if you've got an as-built drawing, it should reflect all of the changes. Absolutely. But you've got a building control application, and then you've got a building control completion certificate, and you have your as-built drawings. You have, on a small project, by looking at the application drawings and the completion drawings, the as-built drawings, you have the trail of what's changed. And I just wonder, are we, by setting the bar so high that somebody has to have another Excel spreadsheet or some way of logging the changes independently of the drawings, making it such that somebody on a smaller project might go, this has nothing to do with me, whereas we should be going, what is the minimum level you need, and then saying you may want to add or request these other things.
Agreed.
Rather than it being part of the base.
This is minimum levels, definitely. So, Joan, if I've got it correct, you're saying that, you know, as you say, it's the information that comes with the completion certificate is the start point. And we don't need any change control from there, because that's actually what you've got. Now, if you change that over the next 15 years of the operation of the building, the operator is going to need to maintain those changes for the next operator, or somebody else is going to come and do a project the same place another day.
Yeah, I think I would just change the words. For me, I would change the words to take explicitly recorded out, because I think you want them explicitly updated, and then you could add somewhere to say that, you know, clients may request explicit records be made for particular projects, you know, separate or something. It's just, you do want the documents to reflect it, and it needs to be explicit. But if you've got a house and you've got the building control drawings and you've got the as-built drawings, do you need a list of, I moved that plug from there to there, I changed the window from being timber to aluminium, you know, it's...
Yeah, it needs to be essentially
Mm-hmm.
watered down a tad, is what we're saying. Don't make it too onerous, it'll never happen anyway.
Yeah.
Pav. Thank
Could
you,
I just
Joan.
ask?
Yeah, sorry, Pav, before you go, Joan, I've prodded you a couple of times about that drawing that Mark did. Have you had a chance to look at it?
I haven't had a chance. I've been on holiday and work's been mad. I'm
much
sorry.
more interesting than Mark's drawing. But can I prod you publicly?
I will definitely look at it. I just haven't had a chance.
Thank you very much.
Sorry.
And what I might say is probably maybe easier than sending long emails about it. Just set up a meeting between Mark and I and you, and we can chat through it. Because you were talking about Venn diagrams, well, that isn't. So I just wanted to make sure where we were. Thank you. Pav, you were going to show all this to some of your clients and see whether they bit or threw it back at you, weren't you?
I just got the document from George today, so I will do that.
You have no chance. Still an action. Your comment, Pav. Yeah.
My comment of I don't know whether this is in scope or not, but change control does. So you've talked generally that what we're talking about is the as-built at the time of completion. That's fine. Yeah. That's what you're going to be providing. I have been in discussions with George of the defects liability period, which is just a short period after you've handed the as-built, but there's change that could happen in that small time frame where the contractor makes changes to the asset. So it's just that small amount of feedback loop of what happens if changes take place and what's the future thing, because that's where the Grenfell and everything else actually came, is that it's not just a change control of the as-built for the sake of it, but it's the feedback loop back to the designer. So that's the bit that I'm not getting clarity about, is that if there is change control, how do you look at the implications of that change control? Does a designer review it? Do you actually coordinate multiple design? Does somebody actually do a check? Due to that change control, do we need to do anything? And that is just the example that I've got is I'm working at Thames Water. Several people it might be the next phase of work. Several people have made changes to an electrical board, all in good practice or whatever. 3 or 4 people have made changes to it, but it's not the as-built anymore. It's not reflective of the original as-built that was supplied by the contractor. So it's all out of date. So what you've got is a risk left in there because the as-built has not been maintained. And I'm just wondering how have we said that the as-built needs to be maintained live, and how's the client asked for that, and how is that design validated? So it's just about the theme of as-built and keeping it live.
Can I interject and say, I think I'm going to push that forward to the next section, as in we're determining what we want here, not how we get to it. And I think that is the next point which I want to get onto, just having gone through these minimum levels. Your point is absolutely correct, but I think that would come into the section of how do we get what we decided we want, if you're with me. Are you happy with that? Just for me to defer it?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. Peter, you're next.
Sorry, in so deferring it that might be gone. I had a view on Pav's comment, in so much as I perceive that was a contractual comment rather than a requirements thing, because if there are defects and things that need modifying in that period, then that would be a contractual matter for the individual project. So either you include the defects liability period within the definition of handover at the beginning. I wouldn't change the definition of the expectation, if you see what I mean.
I am, but again, I'm going to add that into the deferred discussion. Yeah, because I think that's going to be fairly detailed. I think Gordon.
Again, to the points and that we're bringing up, this is why I would move this bullet point. But I think we would want the level of information need. I don't think it's minimum. We don't want to use like that type of language, but we definitely want to make this feasible. And therefore, every screw, every socket, every alteration is not appropriate unless it's holding, a nuclear reactor behind it or something like that. So we want to have that level in there so that it can flex to the needs, basically.
I would hope that the way the thing's put together it underfers that, because I mean it's a matter of specification, isn't it?
Well, that's why if it's put up there, then it flows into that same narrative and then gives you a usable understanding of what this actually is, which is why I wouldn't have it here. But we already have the level of information need in the specification part, so therefore that could they could each support each other.
All right, so we take this one, take it out of there. Yeah, I've got that. Are we happy with if we remove that and put it somewhere else and refine it? Yeah, are we happy with that? Taking the yellow, the interoperable, and we'll put that in with some references to the IMI framework elsewhere in the document, more generally. Yeah, and we're going to take data format and specific user needs, and I'll blend that in with a bit more of specifying what you need before you start, yeah, including how the data is. Are people happy with that generally? Then that first section. Any other questions on that first bit? Otherwise, we're going to 7.1, and I'm going to make a judgment on George again. If you turn your camera on, George, then I'll know when you've read it.
That's good.
So I'm just going to move it up a bit there to get a bit more in there. Franco? You're on mute, Franco.
No, I'm sorry for being very picky about terms, but I consider them important. So I'm looking now at the adjective reasonable before needs. Sorry, reasonable needs, okay? So even if I know very well that clients are very often not capable of defining their needs very clearly, but I think that they have some needs, and therefore reasonable, in my opinion, doesn't add any value to the word needs.
Where have you got that? I'll take it out.
It's the first paragraph. Sorry.
Oh, reasonably needs. Right, okay. People agree with that?
You either need it or not.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you.
Okay. The second point, then I will leave you alone, so to speak. Deconstruct.
No, we're here to debate it, Franco, so the more the merrier.
Okay, good. Right. I was wondering if the term deconstruct is intended to be an equivalent of dispose of, because deconstruct in English means something else. If it is not intended to be a synonym of dispose of, then I would add dispose of, because at the end of the life cycle of an asset, there may be a moment of disposal of. So deconstruct is breaking it down and then maybe reassemble it.
I took it to read demolition, but I'm old. You know, I wouldn't have thought of what was the expression you used there, Franco?
Dispose of, right?
Dispose, yeah, that's it.
Dispose of, which by the way is again a gap. Sorry for being so hard with architects,
but you're absolutely right.
It's a gap in the RIBA stages, right? The last stages, the eighth stage of the RIBA language is in use. At a certain point, assets are not in use anymore because they are disposed of. Right? Okay.
Yeah.
And I think I already said this in another session, that there are sectors, for example, the nuclear section, in which the disposal period is huge, enormous, very, very important. So my suggestion is to add dispose of assets after the existing text.
Happy to do that. Thank you, Franco. Joanna.
So mine's about the next line where it says it should have been agreed during the project specification. But in my experience, that's a bit that goes wrong, is they might not have agreed to anything up at the beginning. So you just get what you get.
I think that's the point we're trying to make here. You should agree it.
No.
Meaning what? So I'm not getting your point. I mean, I accept entirely. If you don't specify, you are going to get what you're given.
Yeah.
The point here is to try and encourage people to start thinking about what they do want and specifying it. And
maybe that's the line you're right.
I beg your pardon?
Maybe that's the line you're right, is that this list can be used to help specify during project startup.
Right. Yeah. In line with what should have been agreed. I shall put that in here. This list can be used. Yeah, I'll fiddle with it. Next one is.
Sorry, I had
Peter.
a view on that as well.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't like the line at all. I think it should just be a full stop after asset.
All right.
And you know, because it says what it needs to say without all the other words, and we are talking about this is the base level.
Yep.
So I mean, I'm happy to take other people's views on that.
I think I'd agree with that. That makes sense.
Any other comments?
If you don't mind,
Peter's got his hands up first, so I'm going to take his first, and then we've got 4 more quick ones.
Okay, I agree with what Joan suggested in terms of cross out. And secondly, I was on to the second sentence. When considering the granular level, it says granular level at the end of the sentence as well, so it just says it twice. That's all.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Peter. Look to that. Mr. Mitchell, Gordon.
I think this clause is trying to specify too much, if I'm honest. I think, you know, we've already cited ISO 7817, and if you look at the way it handles the level of information need, it talks to more the methodology, the process you should be going through to determine what that looks like for your specific stock. I think I'd be more inclined to lean into that standard and its definitions to then, you know, not specify to any degree, to be honest, because I think it's not what this standard needs to kind of confuse itself with, going down to that level of detail. And if we did want to do any of that, it would be better handled in an annex, in my opinion, rather than in the main standard clauses. So that I think, you know, that's kind of, I think that lets us have an easier flow throughout this, but without having to, as I say, specify.
My only concern, Gordon, with that, and again, opening it up to the remainder of the group, is that most people using this guidance will not have any understanding of the ISOs 1950 or anything else. So we're trying to give base level guidance to the smallest lay sort of system.
Yeah, I mean, the language is fine. It's more that there's such a variability on what the business need looks like, and I wouldn't quote ISO this and ISO that, but if you take the methodology and make it very plain language, then it gives anyone an approach from a business standpoint for how to tackle this type of thing and then appropriately contract against it. But you know, to me, this is, as I say, I think it's trying to specify too heavily
Golden, is that getting back to where I keep pushing us out of this, is trying to get to a point of how we get the information. What we're trying to do at the moment is still specify what we want. The how will have to come afterwards. And am I right in thinking you're talking about the how essentially in that comment?
I think there's too much of the how in this clause at the moment.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to say. I think if you give it more of the business methodology requirements here, then that to me would be more helpful to the layman or woman, whatever. But that's just my tuppence worth.
Thank you. George, you're next.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the point that you made in terms of not referencing lots of different ISO standards, most people don't have access to those things. So, and I now understand, Gordon, that wasn't what you were suggesting, but I think we need to keep it so this in itself is readable and usable without having to go and refer to lots of other things that are probably behind paywalls.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't reference them explicitly at all. I think we can leverage it to our own purposes in essence, but I certainly wouldn't, like you say, George, it is behind a paywall. So, but the concept that it's trying to handle, do you know what I mean? That I think sound in terms of that methodology approach. I wouldn't even say the way it handles it is layman terms either, but we can make it such.
Thank you, Lex. Thank you too. John.
Yes, I think that there's also a legal minimum of information. I don't know if that's been mentioned already. And kind of reference when you're talking about the minimum information the end user needs, there is also a legal requirement, and certainly reference to, you know, HSE standards, building regulations, which obviously are publicly available at cost. Does that need to be included in there? I think
I think we do need to do that. Yeah, I've forgotten that. Yeah.
A lot of questions is it's called minimum levels of detail, but the section is about levels of information. Is that an important distinction? It's not about the information detail.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Level of detail.
It's got to be legal.
So but that heading for 7.1 should the heading be minimum levels of information or minimum?
What do people think? Thoughts on that one? Then I'll come to you, Joan.
Yeah, information, Anthony.
I need some more context when we talk about levels of levels of detail in design. We talk about as you go through the REBA stages in building service design, that having a more detailed design, you've got more valves and things in there, and whereas it's not that level of detail that we're talking about here.
Cool. I'm with that. Yeah. Joan, anybody else? Sorry, on that point, are we all agreed with information rather than detail?
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Over to you, Joan.
I find this section quite difficult. I didn't understand the language of a lot of it. You know, even things like when considering the level of information required, consideration should be given to security of data at a granular level. I don't know what that means, and I think everybody could read that to mean a completely different thing, because when I read about security of data, I'm thinking about IT systems and backups, and you know, whereas it might mean reliable. So there are bits in here that I think are very sensible in the sense of you're saying that you need to identify the locations of safety critical elements, but you know, the asset spatial hierarchy. Again, I'm thinking about the smaller project, the sort of less BIM orientated user. It does make sense to say things like concealed and embedded services. The accuracy should be sufficient to locate without opening up. That's very sensible. But you know, the idea of a documented coordinated system is not required as a baseline, as long as it is located within, you know, the building exists. So if you think about smaller projects, you know, so I think if we got a little bit more just generally descriptive about principles rather than I suppose it's a wee bit the comment I made before, the how. You know, we just have principles, and then the how can be something else. You know, the time and location for asset data. You know, basically what I think you're saying is, if a product has a lifespan, it should be identified to the end user.
Yeah.
How we do
the
it?
bad use of English is a lot of it.
Well,
and
it's not
too much detail. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just a wee bit too technical.
Yeah. Good. Okay, I got that for the whole section. Thank you, Peter.
I was just going to reinforce what Joan just said there. I think it only needs a simple sentence to say something like the following principles may apply, or it is envisaged the following principles apply, and then you're just building a little bit of more data on the fact that you can operate, maintain, and so on, without cutting into the nature of the information, just the principles of what we're trying to do. I agree with you fully, Joe.
Okay, got that. Right, over to the next. Any other comments on the bit we were reading there? Franco, yeah.
Well, I want to go back to what George said, because in my opinion, this is a really fundamental question. So George rightly said that there are small contractors, small organizations that either do not know certain standards, or maybe they know that they exist, but they may not wish to invest in the document itself. For example, SFG 20 and other standards are expensive to buy. So my dilemma is, standards exist because they should be complied with, right? Okay. So if you don't read them, if you don't understand them, if you don't comply with them, there is a problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as I said, it's a dilemma that if somebody is legally, for example, accused of not complying with a certain standard, and if he says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I was not aware, or I didn't buy the book," whatever, it's a bit of a problem, right? In Italy, if you do, I'm sure in the UK too, there is no justification to the lack of knowledge of certain rules or regulations. You must know them, right? And if these regulations are contained in a standard, then somehow somebody should read and understand and apply those standards. That might be the dilemma.
I think you're right. No, ignorance is no excuse in English law either. But a lot of the standards are guidance or best practice and are not actual legal requirements. And we can't go down that route.
Okay, so let's call them regulations then. Something you must do.
I've made a note. As someone says, we've got to have the minimum information. It's got to be whatever's legally required, and then they've got to go and ascertain what that is. We will have a list of legal stuff.
Okay.
Requirements in the next bit when I have had time to sort it out with others.
Which implies that those legal requirements must be known to whoever.
Well, that then comes back to competence and a whole raft of stuff. But we can only state it here. Otherwise, we'll never get past it.
Okay.
But I agree with you. So that's the next section to read. George, let's have your camera, then I know when you've done.
Yeah. You're blocking me from reading it. Well, that all looks quite good to me.
Anybody else got any comments? Peter?
Only just one question, whether we want to mention the fundamental fire strategy at this point, at the top end of that list, or whether you think that's already covered.
I don't think that can be covered enough, actually, Peter. So I think I agree with you.
Okay.
Where would we put that in there, including fire, in relation to fire? Yeah.
No, I thought under the first bullet, design specifications, including calculations where appropriate. Oh, I see what you mean. No, sorry, that's a sub bullet, isn't it? Yeah, I think you're right. Excuse me. Yeah, I think you're right.
So how was I right?
A new bullet underneath the one where your cursor is. Yeah.
All right, I'll deal with that.
Okay.
Franco?
Third bullet point above 7.2, O&M manuals, comma, warranties and so on, right? My question is about the maintainable plant and equipment, right? Whereas the letter M obviously refers to maintainable equipment.
Yeah.
You know, there is plant and equipment which is not maintainable, but it needs to be operated, right? So I think that the operational instructions should cover also non-maintainable assets.
Yeah, definitely.
Certificate something for all maintainable plant, all non-maintainable and non-maintainable
because
plants.
What I'm trying to say is that the concept of maintainable obviously is the M element of the O&M manuals. The concept of operation is something else, right? So I would say that maintainable, it should be clear that maintainable refers to the maintenance element of the O&M manuals, maintenance instructions of the O&M manuals, because you operate also non-maintainable assets.
Excuse me, jumping in ahead. I do apologise, but I don't agree with the term non-maintainable, because everything is maintainable. So, like cladding, for example, is maintainable. So I think we need to be careful with that distinction.
I'll
and
agree
maybe
with that.
just remove maintainable fully. Excuse me, cutting in, guys.
No.
This is an interesting point. Sorry for continuing, because my understanding, but again, correct me if I'm wrong, is that maintainable asset means something that is not maintained by replacement. Okay, so maintainable means that you can do whatever to keep it going, right? I think from what I've learned in my life that maintainable versus replaced is a choice, right? At a certain point, you replace something, you do not maintain it. Am I wrong, George, or you are?
It makes sense.
I think there are elements that you'd have to maintain, like the structure of the building. You still have to maintain. You're not going to replace it.
Absolutely, yeah. But there are elements that you replace, which is different from maintain.
You still have.
Okay. All right. Can I've got that, Franco. Let me take the further questions, because we've got quite a few views.
No, because I'm saying this because it was suggested to delete the or not to use the term maintainable. That's why. Okay, I will keep silent.
Yeah. So there's a question about for all plant and equipment. So just take the word maintainable out.
Okay.
What do people think about that? John, you're next in line.
Yeah, I mean, the original comment that I had there before the meeting was more the opposite direction, actually, but this makes sense. I was just thinking about at the end of that bullet point around any elements of structure and building fabric. I mean, that's kind of all encompassing. It's kind of everything in the building. It basically says, including mechanical, electrical, and services as well. So I would have sort of changed that sentence, say it's mechanical and electrical building services, as well as is it maintainable, or what would that be? You know, an O&M manual wouldn't necessarily have details of like parts of the structure.
Depends.
Views, people? Does that answer the thing? As I've just taken that word "and" out, as really as a structural building. I mean, I don't want to be at risk of getting too granular, picking up the comments we had a little bit earlier. It's just for general, you've got to cover everything. Joan, you're next.
Yeah, you won't necessarily have warranties on certificates for everything. So it's the relevant documents. Sometimes you have a warranty for something that is replaceable, and you need to know when to replace it, so therefore you need the warranty. So it maybe just trying to do too much in one bullet. Maybe it should be two. So it's the O&M manuals for plant and equipment, and relevant documentation for non-operational equipment or something, or non-operational parts of the building, because you will have certificates and warranties for those.
Yeah, I mean, I think you need one O&M manual that then has the relevant warranty certificates for obviously plant and equipment, and then also it's if there's any sort of maintainable, replaceable, I don't know what word to put in, but any structural building fabric elements that need to be considered. But this says you must include any structural elements in the O&M manual, and I don't think that's practicable.
Right, so we're talking about relevant. Joan.
I think O&M manuals for.
Sorry, if I could just say, what you could do is just after fabric, say that require attention or something like that. So what I'm trying to do there is pick up things like things that need painting or cleaning or whatever. So it's
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
As long as you say relevant warranties and certificates, then, because the warranties and certificates are not relevant to every piece of stuff in the building.
No, sure.
So put relevant at the front here.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Well, no, I think you want O&M manuals for all of the maintainable stuff, because you want an O&M manual for your painting the wall, for tiling your floors.
But if we have relevant for everything, then add the painting and other activities.
Sorry, I had a couple of other points.
All right, let me just get George organised. Okay. So, GAN electrical elements of structure, building fabric
that require attention. I think attention is a generic term. It might just be inspection.
Everyone happy with that?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure on the term there, George.
Yeah.
Right, what's a better term, Mr. Binns?
Care.
Someone said inspection.
Well, it's not just inspection. That's the point. I was trying to use something a bit more generic.
Yeah.
That it means you've got to do attention. Means you've got to do something to it, even if it's just looking at it.
It's around monitoring and maintaining, isn't it? It's in that ballpark. It's just finding the word.
Yeah.
Probably highlight that one.
Word.
Yeah, I'll have a look at that.
I'll have a
look at that. Joan, you had other comments to make.
Yeah, the bullet point above that is repetition of something that was said above, so it needs to appear just once. So either put it here or take it out of above about the concealed services. That's repetition on the bullet points in the previous one that we talked about. It may well belong better here. If you look in the section that we discussed above,
elements.
So you've mentioned that before. It might belong better down here. Yeah, it's there, just at the top of page 5.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Something else for that one. Anything else, Joan?
And then the first line on that last page that we were looking at, which is the strategy for retention and review of as-built information as necessary. What has that got to do with the contractor handing over the building? Surely that strategy is the client who gets the documentation.
I disagree, because I think actually that was a comment that was picked up by last time, where somebody said that the client who will not understand any of this should be told that some of this information will be defunct in a certain period. So you need to be dealing with this. So it was information to be given to the client about the retention of information, because some information, I can't remember exactly the words, but it was along the lines of some information will just naturally become defunct in time to come. Other information you'll need to review and update. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was along those lines.
Okay, that makes sense. Of it. But I don't think that somebody who is a layperson would understand that's what you mean by reading it. I agree with the point then, now that it's been explained, but I'm just not sure that it isn't a bit
It needs the client should receive some form of, yeah.
Yeah, the client should receive some form of advice about retaining and reviewing the as-built information or something.
I'll have a look at that. Yeah.
Something a little bit more user-friendly.
Yeah, agreed.
Just prepare.
Pav, you're next in line, sir. You're on mute, Pav.
Sorry, I love the section about concealed embedded elements. I want to talk to you about system elements. So it's very similar to that, where a different discipline designers get together and say, okay, we want to put mechanical, electrical, all the equipment into a particular place. But it works as a system. Different design teams actually coordinate to get the equipment in place. So what you've got to do is you've got to do an element of systematic disassembly in order to access it. And I'm not sure whether that's contained within O&M manuals. O&M manuals will be based on single subjects, i.e.
Okay.
I have a air conditioning unit. But what happens is the buildability sequence of the contractor might mean that you have to remove X number of elements to actually get to that system or that approach. And I haven't seen anything about that sort of systems or gathering that information. How do you get to areas that have got multiple products in them? So it's sort of around the concealed embedded elements thing, but it's not. It's that you've got a product that you're not going to be able to get to. So how do you provide that guidance? Is it in the O&Ms that give you safe access and egress, or is it not? Because I don't think it's put in. So it's just
I get that. I get that. So where you're saying you've got a number of different building systems put in place, they're all in a hugger mugger in that particular thing, and you've actually got to take out bits to get at it's a bit like trying to get the air conditioning motor underneath a motor in a motor car. You've got to take the engine out.
Yeah.
I will make I've got that, Pav, and I'll put it in.
I mean, that should be covered in the health and safety file, Anthony, anyway.
Probably, but have you ever seen it in there, in one that you didn't dispute? I mean, I think I think the point's worth making here, whether it should be in there or not.
Yeah. It's not just about
disaggregation. It's access, isn't it? It's access.
It's phasing, that comes into it. Yeah.
Gary Watts.
Hi, Anthony. I have put something in the chat. So in terms of passive,
I can't see it.
Yeah, in terms of passive fire and also life safety equipment and systems, you'd be wanting to include third-party certification information, design, installation, and maintenance. So an example is risers, really. The third-party certification scheme. They're not all equal, and there's only one, for example, design certification for risers. Multiple, obviously, for maintenance. So fire stopping again as well. So I think Lawrence Chapman's just indicated, I think, that he agrees with me in that regard. The other thing is, I just wonder whether you should be gathering information on the hold and test points for the safety critical elements of the building.
Are we getting into too much detail here in that people should be understanding that? I'm not disputing it should be there, Gary.
It's kind of there in the last bullet point, but the last bullet point needs a wee bit of a tweak as well.
Or the relevant O&M manuals bit.
Yeah, because you can't have things subject to statutory sign-off, because that doesn't happen.
Yeah. So I think the first point's the most important one, Anthony, in terms of the third-party certification scheme information for those who've done the design and install. That needs to be in the fire, whether it be life safety equipment and systems or the passive fire safety elements of the building. Does anybody else want to chip in, and I'll sign off?
I'll put that in there, Gary, and I'll pick it up from the chat. And if I don't understand it, I'll give you a ring. Yeah. Any other comments on the bit I've got on the screen there at this moment, or can we get a 7.2 for the last 10 minutes?
Have you picked up my comment just about removing the word subject to statutory sign-off? Because nobody signs things off. Building control doesn't. It's the last bullet point.
That exactly.
Yeah,
last bullet.
Yeah. I think it's evidence of regulatory compliance documentation must be provided. I
think you're right. I was always getting word blind and peed off by then, because
Yeah.
I know that very well. Must be provided. Oh. No. I'll still undo that, or I'll go. Go that way. Really? Yeah. Any other comments? We go 7.2, which, if you recall, we merged with, there was 7.2 and 7.3, and actually we merged those two at that time. Mark.
The only thing I really wanted to say today, and we've talked about it before, is there's two parts to the validation. One is the validation of the process that leads to the record, but the other thing is to be able to pick up a record and trust it. And that, to me, is the core of all of this. Yeah. Is that we need to make it a requirement, or to define what we mean by a record. And so I think when we started in the original paper, it was, I know everything's not golden thread, but if you take golden thread, there's a process embedded within that actually allows you to produce probably a final construction issue drawings. The drawings entitled final construction issue, and the validation is provided with associated documents and says, you can trust these drawings, this is what we built, which is fine. But actually, I wouldn't be comfortable taking a building over with a series of drawings with that written on them. So therefore, a lay person needs to be able to pick up a record and have something on that record that provide evidences to them that they can trust it. Now that's either words or something, because it's as important to be able, it's the most important thing that you can trust a record you pick up. No, when you look at that drawing, there must be something that tells you that you can trust it. And we know that asking certain people to put as built on a drawing is, for all sorts of reasons, never going to happen. So we need to know what that looks like, so that when somebody sees the record with that written on it, they go, yeah, I can trust it. And the regulator can accept it.
Agreed. Joan, thank you. Thanks, Mark. Agreed with you.
Yeah, this part is the bit where I get confused about the idea of as-built being everything, as opposed to as-built being the information about what has been built, because the first thing says each record document must be independently checked against the physical installation. You don't check an O&M manual against the physical installation. You check a drawing of the installation against the physical installation. So we have to be very, and you cannot check each record document that is in the file. You know, it's you know, for safety critical elements, third party and or regulatory sign off is a requirement. That's not the case. And I don't know how you would get it. And then the words validation confirms it's a fit for the end user's purpose means not a designer will touch this document, because we have no PI insurance for fit for purpose. So this is where it kind of gets difficult. And this is where I was wanting to do my thinking about the Venn diagram of how all the different bits fit together, because you don't need this level of check on every single piece of stuff. You need it on what I consider to be as-built drawings, which are information, which is the as-built information, not all the other stuff that comes with it.
Jane, I would counter that I've seen O&M manuals full of the worst load of information that is absolutely valueless.
No,
so,
but
you know,
I agree. I agree it needs to be valuable, and that needs to be the correct information, but it doesn't need verified against the physical installation. It does need. You do need to confirm it is the right piece of information for the piece of kit, but this suggests, and the signing off all suggests something that is different. So
how do we get
this
to
bit
the
is
point,
very difficult.
How do we get to the point that Mark has just made, is that the person 5 years down the line can pick up a bit of information and trust it? Alan has probably got the answer.
You put too much faith in me, Anthony. No, I think.
I mean, I get the point there, Joan, but you know, we're working towards Mark's position. We've got to get to a point where somebody can pick up a document and trust it, and at the moment we cannot.
And what does independently mean? But why does it need to be independent? It just needs somebody to say, I put this on in the building and that drawing is correct. It doesn't need an independent person to do that, because the person who should do it, the person who did it, should be the person who's verifying it, because then they're putting their neck on the line to say, I did it. But the independent person is impossible.
Joan, I fundamentally disagree with you there, because the evidence is that people are providing information that hasn't been checked, or if they have checked it, they've not made it right. It's shocking, the level of the quality of information that we're seeing, to be honest.
I think as well, the scenario that was brought up earlier about the risers and the level of coordination that's going to be required in some instances, relying on individual players to provide their own information, it doesn't necessarily mean that all works together as well from a holistic point of view, which I think is where this independent verifier actually comes in quite well as an idea.
But do you mean independent?
Joan, do you mind if I just interject quickly? Yeah. Don't forget, we're trying to determine here what we should have eventually, not that you can do this tomorrow afternoon. No, okay, I don't mean you personally. I mean, not that the industry can deliver this now. What we're trying to determine is what should happen, and then work out how we get to that as a secondary exercise.
Okay, I'm concerned about is that we're potentially creating an industry of independent verifiers that don't add value to the process. So I get the point about the duct, right? But if the contractor is told you have to have a person in your team who is responsible for ensuring that those guys all coordinate it, and you have to put your name on the line, that is different from getting a third-party independent verifier who doesn't work in the construction team to come in and verify, because you're just creating paperwork that doesn't add value as long as you get the end result. So I think we have to be very careful.
Do you think you could hand on heart, Joan, and I'm looking straight down the camera at you, at this moment in time, do you believe that would actually work?
I don't think that contractors do it at the minute because they're not being held to a standard, but they're also not being asked to put their name against it at the minute. They're not being asked to be liable for it. And things have changed. Even the very idea that you sign a certificate to say, my build, I confirm I have done or complied with my duties under the building regs, has changed culture. So it doesn't need an outside person to change culture. I think we could pick specific things that might need to be independent, but if the culture is that you have a drawing and somebody in your organization has to actually go, this is what was built, there is a line of responsibility. That's what Hackett was trying to do, was lines of responsibility.
Yeah, okay, no, I'm in agreement
Joan,
with you.
Can I just retort on that? I think we're losing something here, and it's probably just around the semantics of independent. The principal contractor is not carrying out the majority, if any, of the building work that is happening on site. They are independent of the trades who are carrying out that work, and they can be in that position as independent verifier because they already have the duty to plan, manage, monitor under CDM, under building regulations. So there's nothing to say that they are not the verifier.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that, but it doesn't say that. It says independent, and people will think independent of the construction
Independent
team.
of what is probably the
Okay, that's a very good point. Let's pick that up and see if we can do something even better with that. Independent of what? I think that's a very valid point. Mark, sorry, I'm just going to try and make one of my things, which I will remind myself. Mark, go ahead. You're on mute for a change, not on purpose.
No. Sort of picking up on what both Alan and Joan have said, is the answer to my question, I think, is that somebody who is the person that validates that record takes responsibility and records the fact they have validated that record and then puts their name on it to say that they've done so. If you pick up on what Alan says, logically, that has to be a principal contractor because of that coordinating function, because nothing works in isolation. The building shall comply with the building regulations, not a particular component. And you know full well that actually, if you don't make that clear, I shouldn't speak bad of the tier ones in the room, but they'll push it down to the subcontractors as fast as you can possibly imagine.
I think there's another piece in this as well. If you think about the completion notice for completion, when we've got that co-signing process for principal contractor and principal designer to say they've carried out their duties.
Only for HRBs, Alan. Only for
no,
HRBs.
That's on all building work. That is, yeah. And it's to say they've done their duties under Part 2A. Yeah. It's probably a co-signing process there in that validation and verification between the principal contractor and the principal designer as well, rather than it just falling on the principal contractor. I know that might muddy the water having two parties, but there is an element of the design and then there is the element of what has been built as well.
Franco?
I think that some of the things that have been said suffer from the core of what we are talking about, which is as built. I think that there are elements of information that should reflect what has been built and tested and commissioned. For example, test certificate, commissioning reports, method statements. These are not drawings. These are things that are required to make any modification to existing assets or to operate assets, right? So it is important to make sure that we are not focusing on the word built, because, as I said, the facility manager needs also not only the drawings which depict what has been built and reflects accurately what has been built, but the operator and maintainer, the facility manager, needs also other types of documents. And those documents are those that are often not existing or very badly compiled or incomplete or whatever, as George rightly said. I have seen many O&M manuals that are incomplete, improperly structured, not clear, and so on. And I'm not referring to the drawings. I'm talking about the other information/data. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Franco. George.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the declaration side of things, Joan, has been used extensively over the last few years from what I've seen, under Regulation 38, where the contractor has got to sign a declaration to say that they've provided all of the relevant information, and the client's got to sign a declaration to say that they've received it. And they often receive the requirement to do that within 24 hours of project completion, and everybody's put under huge pressure to just sign it. And that happens lots and lots of times. And I think that's a fundamental issue. That's why I think an independent person does need to be doing that.
Joan, I'm sure you had your hand up and then you tried to take it down and I was watching.
Well, maybe this comes into the next point, because I think that the big problem with all of this stuff is it's all last minute, Joe. Everything is at the end, and you've got here a formal handover inspection or walkthrough must be completed. There needs to be 1,000 formal handover inspections. So I think what we should be saying is that contractors should be making proposals, and I think this is what construction control plans are for, and I'm having great difficulty getting our clients to understand this, that they're client authored documents contractors input to, but that there should be a process like the Republic of Ireland about inspections, that if before you cover up anything, it should be inspected, and that there should be a formal handover or a system as part of the process that says nobody can see this when the job is finished, so therefore it's got to be inspected by somebody and recorded and whatever. So I think that it's this idea that you get to the end, because if you have as-built drawings and you're looking at the drawings and somebody goes, I'm not putting my name to those, but they need to look at the drawing to build it. So the moment that it's built, it becomes as built, and it can be signed off that very day as being it was built like this and put in a file, not to be looked at again maybe for 2 years, but it's as built the day it was built and somebody had to use the drawing to build it. So I don't see this as being an extra layer, but it's a continuous layer, and I think it's the continuous nature of it is the thing that we really have to get across.
I absolutely agree with that, and I think that's going to be almost as difficult as trying to define what it is we want, which is why I've tried to split it out between let's determine what we want and then work out the realistic ways of how we're going to get there, which is sort of part two. But the two are inextricably linked. I entirely accept that. But I've been trying to determine what is it we think is acceptable, and then how do we get there? There are two totally separate things. And I wasn't being facetious, but saying, I think it's as hard, and it's going to take a long time to change the culture of the sector to get to trusted information, if I use that grand term. Mark.
I was just picking that. I just think I probably missed a bit, but independently checked, I think, is how it was explained is perfectly explained, and we should pick up on these nuances, really.
Meaning the principal contractor is independent of the subbies.
Yeah, I think as soon as somebody explains it, you go, well, of course I understand what that means, and so therefore, if you articulate that in this, then you resolve the dilemma.
Well, we'll have a go at doing that. Okay. So independently check. I'll have a go with all of that first thing. Yeah, the thing is, anything else on these?
Yeah, they sign off for third party or for critical elements is
Where was that?
It shouldn't be any different than the other things.
Okay. I think that's a valid comment. Anyone disagree with that? Right, next page full. After I was trying to pick up the views about photographs, and I used the expression metadata there, but when I was having a discussion with someone earlier today, the word metadata tends to link to electronics, and I don't think it necessarily does, but perhaps it may be the wrong word.
Well,
for
metadata,
non-digital, let's put it that way.
No. Metadata is a very clearly defined concept. It's data about data, information about data. That's what I've learned. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that correct?
It is. That's right.
Does anyone have a ready to go definition that we can stick in the glossary? George, I'm looking at you there.
I'll track one down.
Thank you. Anything else on that page? I don't know whether Nata's still with us. I don't know if we've got anybody left.
No.
How many have we got left, George? Have we got people still enough to make this a valuable exercise?
Yeah, I think so. We've got 23 people on.
Yeah, everyone happy? I'll just keep going until we've got everyone board to a team. What about that page? Generally okay? Any other comments?
That's okay.
Right, I'll move to the next bit. I had a note about corrosion HP1. I didn't know what that meant, so that's why it's yellow. I think I might have been you, Gary Watts. I don't know what HP1 is.
Tide Part 1 there, Anthony.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I need to reacquaint myself with the document first before commenting.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. But I didn't know what HP1 is. I know what you mean now. We've discussed it. Any other comments on that page full? This is the bit, Mark, we're trying to deal with, and other people have previously used this expression, trustworthy information.
Well, I'm not sure what you're asking the structural engineer to confirm. Structural engineer's confirmation of as-built structural integrity.
Where did I put that? I think what I was saying, I suppose my, excuse me, somewhere I have put that I am anticipating, and I may be wrong, but I have heard tell, I think, that iStructE and RIBA and a number of others, and certainly BISRA, somebody kindly sent it to me the other day, have basically already set out for their discipline what the appropriate information and sign-off procedures are as part of their professional practice. I don't want to replicate that, but I would like to be able to refer to it where people know where they are. So if anybody knows or their professional body has already done or is doing the work, I would like, and I think it'd be very useful for people to be able to cross-refer just here. And I don't know whether iStructE or RIBA have, but I've got a name of a person I'm going to ring up and find out for both. But there may be others. So anyone and everybody who's got any, it would be a useful list to have. Does that answer your question there?
Yeah, I think the reason I asked the question is that if you read the wording at the minute, it suggests that the structure is confirming the integrity of the as-built structure, which they will not do because the only person who can do that is the contractor. You know, it sounds like it's guaranteeing that the structure is built properly, which is not the structural engineer's job. That's all. It's just the wording. The wording suggests a fitness for purpose obligation on an engineer. But you need to ask a structural engineer whether they're happy with it or not.
If we take that out, we just want confirmation.
Yeah, yeah.
Then we don't mind who it is. And I don't mind who it is, as long as somebody is telling us, or we've got the trust. Excuse me. Peter?
Yeah, what's the background to the risk register comment? That looks like a very specific comment based on a problem that someone's had. Rather, I'm not quite sure what the direction of travel is on that risk register.
I think it was a discussion that I picked up from and tried to reinterpret from the thing. And people were saying there's loads of risk assessments and risk stuffs and what have you in the as-built information.
Yeah.
And that as often as not, they're totally remote from whatever it was that they were talking about. So the point I reinterpreting it there was saying, if you've got a register essentially of anything,
right,
you need to go back to the source. You need to have a reference to what the source. So maybe it's not risk registers.
Should it be residual risk registers? Because one of the problems that you get at the end of projects is that you get the risk register that includes all the risks that were risks that aren't risks anymore.
And also they need to be project specific, and that's obvious, but so many are generic. My experience, but
sorry, I think
I think it should. Yeah, I think it's more about should sufficiently describe the risk and it's, you know.
Well, we've also got essentially risks related to structures and fire for the HRBs. I was trying to be rather general there, but my point was where you're referring to something or just having a list. I mean, I don't know how many things I've seen, and there's no reference to the source document. Gary, sorry, Joan, I interrupted.
No, it's fine.
I think it should include and management arrangements for that risk. By default, you'd expect the risk register to detail that, but they don't.
And management arrangements. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, forgive me. Does it mean mitigation measures or something else?
Well, it could be more than that, couldn't it, or less? I that's where I was contemplating mitigation, but that's for the management, isn't it? Where they got to mitigate it. I think it's the management arrangements could or could not include mitigation. You might not need mitigating.
Do we want a single?
Well, for example, a tensioned element, you know, within an existing structure is a risk. It will only manifest itself if somebody cuts into it at a future point in time. Should be in the risk register.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there are some risks where you wouldn't provide management arrangements, in the sense of that you're telling a client about a risk, but there's plenty of documentation from the HSE to tell you how to do the ongoing management of that risk, you know.
Well, I would have thought the designer should be pointing the client towards it, because they should have been considering that in their design work. Otherwise, how are they complying?
If you put a, well, yes, I suppose maybe as long as people don't read management arrangements to be anything more than, you know, that you must use appropriate platforms to maintain your lights if they're at high level. Because it's not your job to.
I just think we've got to leave that for people to argue about on the thing there, frankly.
Do we want a single register or many registers? I would say one. I would opt for one. It's a single document, whatever, that contains all the risks. It may registers. Maybe.
I'm just slightly concerned that there may be more than one, and we want them all. But the point being is, if you've got any register of any description, you've got to tie it back to what it relates to.
Perhaps we should just say residual risks, including reference to sources on which the risk, whatever. Sorry, I haven't followed that through. But maybe we don't need including in as-built information must include. We need to just condense that down, because if you go to the bullet point above, it says the minimum as-built information package must include. So are we asking for risk registers? We are asking for, again, relevant or residual risk registers, or project specific residual risk registers or something like that. It doesn't need all that other wording, perhaps.
Wouldn't it be better to have a single list? Wouldn't it be better, simpler?
Agreed.
Okay, I'll put that into reword. Yeah.
You could use the word consolidated.
I don't think that we should be asking people to consolidate risk registers. I think as long as they're highlighted in a document, and they might be 4 different documents, it doesn't matter as long as they're all in one place. One could be M&E, one could be structural, one could be architectural. Yeah,
I don't think one document's ever going to happen.
Well, if it is properly consolidated, you can attach to each risk metadata, which tells you what the risk is about. just a list, a column. You may refer to, for example, you may refer to the work package associated to that risk element. Whatever.
Well, I think that's what I was meaning by the reference to sources on which it does. I'll have a reword taking those points on and have a go at that. Yeah.
Okay.
Probably with you, Franco. Yeah. Right.
Okay. If I'm not boring you to death, I can.
No, not at all. Right. The next bit. That's. Oh yeah, that's that bit. And I don't think there's anything very much in there, is there? Again, the bottom in yellow, I'm leaving open, and I'm hoping anybody who knows any disciplines, professional bodies, will just tell me who they are. We can add them in, preferably with a link to the overarching URL for that professional discipline.
Wasn't the first bullet point contained in some other part of the document, including reference to individual assets and their specific spatial location? Wasn't it said
It certainly
before?
was, yeah. I think that
Well,
was.
you can make it. You can make a search in the document and find it later. But maybe if you put a question mark there, or to be checked.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but it seems as if.
No, I'm with you, Franco. But that just make me go and have a look for it. It's all right. Don't forget, these are notes to me. I don't expect anyone else to understand what's going on in my head. Everyone happy with that bit?
So the third bullet point.
That's law, really. So I'm not fussed about that. I'm happy with that.
What I was thinking, should we say also for buildings that are not high-risk buildings?
Yeah, that is quite specific for HRBs. I mean, it's in there as much as anything else too, because we're talking about minimums here, and you actually have to have that, so it has to be there. Then I did a little bit here of. I'm just going to quickly run you through this.
Anthony, excuse
go
me,
ahead. Yeah.
Skipping, sorry about that.
No problem.
I'm crouching in a hotel room, trying to follow this. Right, this verified assured construction works completion certificate. My reaction to the brackets to maintain liability with project teams is a personal comment and should be removed.
You're probably right. I've probably got word blind.
Thanks.
In fact, I was taking it out now. It's a simple answer. No, I don't have to think about it. Then
I would just ask what verified and assured means in relation to that, or it's a certificate. It's just a certificate.
Verified. I'll go back to verified and validated. I think.
Yeah, but the certificate is a certificate. Nobody needs to verify it because it's signed. If it's a completion certificate, it doesn't need another person to verify, unless you think somebody's putting in one for a different job.
I think that's probably a fair comment, actually.
That's a really difficult one, that is. I mean, we spend our lives verifying and arguing that the completion certificate is not complete and not finished and so on and so on. So I think this is where these comments come from, Joan, really.
I agree. I mean, we come across it a lot where in fact, I had it this morning, where there was a certificate and there was 2 signatures on it when there should have been 4.
Yeah, but what do you mean by verifying? Are you saying that somebody else? I mean, surely as a contractor, you wouldn't put it in the pile if you thought it wasn't the right certificate.
Whatever somebody has.
Yeah.
This is handover information that we're receiving all the time.
Yeah, but in the case of the certificate, which is prepared by the client's team to say we're accepting this building, surely it's the client's job to verify it, not the person handing it over's job.
Well, nevertheless, somebody ought to verify it and check it's right.
Yeah,
I'm not saying who at this juncture.
The client.
All I'm saying
surely,
is this: the certificate should be there, but the contractor can't verify the certificate themselves.
No, usually we're appointed to verify that certificate or the works as designers in lots of projects within our role, but then we are sub-role within the BSA now, aren't we, in terms of the principal contractor and principal designer. So maybe that's changing. So I do totally get your point, Joan, and we can be sort of jaded by history, unfortunately. I certainly can. And all the pain that you've gone through,
Well, if you look at other regulated industries, they are very explicit on that type of thing, aren't they? So
I'm going to put it in green, which means we haven't agreed it yet. Yeah. Well, that might be relating back to your Venn diagram thing.
Yeah, I don't disagree that the document should be there. I just think that the idea that there's another verification of a document by the person handing it over is the problem.
Yeah, and I get that. It's a tautology, isn't it, is what you're saying, essentially. Yeah. Right, the last bit is we spoke about advice to the client. So essentially, and I don't know, Pav, if you're still with us, but
Sorry, Anthony, just come back, just a quick thought on that. On what we've just been talking about, often you've got a tier one contractor that's got dozens of subcontractors. The information that we're talking about, the certificates, are often coming from subcontractors. Yeah. And does anybody really, although the tier one should be checking that all of those are valid, then, are they? And often that doesn't seem to happen. So that possibly, Joan, would answer your question, because the person that's authoring it isn't necessarily the person that's actually delivering it. So it should be a duty on the tier one to check it, surely.
Yeah, I think maybe I'm just misunderstanding what certificates you're talking about then.
Okay.
No, I think, if I may add something, I think that what John said is somehow correct, because there is a difference between the responsibility of compiling document and accepting it. The person that accepts the document and signs the certificate should be the one that, maybe with the help of some consultant, verifies if what he is accepting is fit for purpose. Right? So I understand what John is saying and also what George is saying, but if I were the receiving party, and if I would discover that I don't have the resources, the time to check the adequacy of the document I receive, I would probably ask for help, which is the type of help that George can provide.
Okay, I don't think that was my point. I think it's not clear to me what certificates we're talking about here in terms of completion certificates, and I think maybe if we were clearer about that, then we could get to the end of this one.
It's the certificate that determines that.
How would you describe them, Joan?
I don't know what certificates you're talking about. I read this and thought you were talking about like a practical completion certificate, or as the job is finished, the final certificate at the end of the job.
Well, there's
it's not the final one
because it's certificates, haven't you, and everything else.
Yeah, but we've talked about commissioning certificates up above, so that's why I thought this was just about the final handover certificate. Yes, absolutely. If you're talking about certification during the project, but I thought we'd covered that already on one of the other points. So I thought this was, you want the as-built pack to have the completion certificate, the building control completion certificate, and my practical completion certificate in it. That's what I thought, but maybe I've just misread it.
So
I'm going to park that because of the timing, and we'll have a further detailed think, because it's defining what it is, the expectation. I think in my mind, it's some sort of authentication of any bloody certificate, frankly. But I take your point. We've got to define that. I'm going to leave it in green, as it needs to be dealt with as opposed to ignored. Yeah. I'm just very conscious of the time. I want to pick people's views of this client information. And I was specifically here trying to pick up on the comments of several people. And I'm just asking, is it still, George, we've still got enough people to make this valid for the remainder's efforts? I don't want to detain people unnecessarily.
Well, we've still got 19 people on the call.
Oh, good. Okay. All right.
I'm going to have to disappear, I'm afraid. So I've got a 2 o'clock. Thanks very much.
Should we agree to do this again next week?
I think I'll have another go at it. Yeah, I just want to have a go.
I guess what I'm saying is that we can invite people. Peter, it'd be great if you could make it next week. Maybe do it at the same time.
Excuse me. Sorry, I sent my message, but I'm still here. See.
Well,
yes, I think I could.
Week,
that would work George. With me personally. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Right. See you, everyone. Thank you.
Peter. So this was picking up various comments of people saying, Joan, and certainly early doors, you were saying, you know, it all depends what the client wants, you know. So I was trying here to suggest to the client, if they had a 1 page, why should they make the effort to try and set all this out to start with? We know, but a lay person would have no idea of the benefits I'm trying to set out for them. There's a bit of stick and carrot, hopefully, in this. Yep. So if we got a quarter of an hour just to take people's views on comments and what I have added in or have missed, I'd be grateful.
Okay.
So again, I'll leave you to, I'm taking George as the judge.
The highlighted comments or section in there, paragraph in there, Anthony, is that?
That was me interpreting the discussion we had last time.
Yeah, good.
And the comments from Jonathan. Any comments particularly there?
No.
It's pretty generalist. It's fairly general, high level stuff, just to try and prod them into thinking about it before we have to worry about it. And Julian was from the British Museum, I think it was. I just wanted to make sure that he didn't mind me saying a large museum.
Yeah, he'll be okay with that, I think.
Well, we need to hear him say it when he can do.
Sure. I think we are going to need to get to the bottom of this fit out bit that we've learned today as well, Anthony, which I think's
that's really, I was hoping today to get, I mean, I think we've covered most of this off today with a bit of fiddling around if I speak to a couple of individuals directly. The next one is hopefully to go through this relatively quickly. That's the last bit. And then start thinking about how do we get this information in one place?
Yes.
And I've got a couple of discussions with Gordon and some other from NEMA who've done a lot of that work. And I'm hoping we can pick up their work, which will be digital based, but actually the process shouldn't be any different with digital or otherwise. So I'm hoping we can adapt some of the work they've done and just say, this is what you've got to do and cross-refer it.
So what do you know? I mean, I know NEMA, obviously. Do you know specifically what What examples?
No, I don't yet. I've had enough on. I haven't. So what we need to do is to get hold of, and I'm trying to remember who it was. Gordon set up a meeting, with us to look at some of the stuff, and there's another one that I've agreed to have a chat with. But anything you have, and perhaps you and I could have a thought, is I have in mind a sort of process diagram based perhaps on REBA works.
Yeah,
which says you should be pulling this together. You know, this is where you need to do it. We can't. It's. I think I have in mind something that recognises this is not happening now, and this is what should be happening. So the more you can start doing down this particular road of recommendation, A, you'll get closer to what we're asking for, and B, you'll be getting closer to what the digital team are going to want in the next few years.
Yep. Agreed.
So rather than go off at a tangent is to try and pull digital expectations and turn them into a non-digital world, so they're all going the same direction. Is my thought, but I haven't got that further. So any thoughts you and your teams have on that, or any diagrams, George, would be really handy.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, we can definitely look at that.
Any thoughts on those words for people? Just a general. Did you generally agree with them? There's still 2 of us here. Anyone got any particular hates or likes? Or is it generally okay?
I think it's generally okay.
Good. If, George, I can ask, actually, before we go, I'm going to stop sharing. Don't go yet, because I want to pick up the chat. So let me just see if I can get that. I guess I do that first. Why hasn't that done it? Oh, for God's sake. I copied it. Copied most of it, isn't it? And if you could let me have the transcript, George, as quickly as you can.
Yeah.
I'll have another go with others over the sort of weekend. Margaret, are you still with us there?
Sorry?
No, is Margaret with us?
Margaret who?
Saki.
Yes, I am here.
Is there any other Margaret? I was going to ask Margaret whether or not is it ICE or iStruct-E?
Yes.
Whether you know Patrick and the others. I think it was. I got from a comment you'd made or Patrick made that they have been specifying what a structural engineer should be delivering at the end of a project proportionally. I think they've been doing the work.
In terms of HRBs or in terms of in general?
Well, in any terms, I just want to be able to cross-refer to it. I don't want to just say.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there's several documents, as you know, Patrick has authored and got John Carpenter, your old boss.
Yeah, would you be able to give me a sort of pointer to where we should refer in this document to iStruct-E to say go away and find the information?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. And I remember promising at the last meeting to engage with ACE. Remember, a Association of Consulting Engineers that has communications for clients, and set out this, and I specifically engaged with the ACE and by email, so I'm waiting for a response. But in terms of the iStruct-E and obviously with the structural engineer special role that they have, yes, I can, definitely refer to, send you a note on a number of publications.
Yeah, it's just all I want to be able to do is say there are a number of professional bodies already specifying all this. Go away and have a look at that. Nothing more than that, but it's a way of pointing people towards iStructE or Rebra, whoever it happens to be.
And we're getting there slowly but surely. We're getting there.
Whatever's there's there, whatever isn't. I don't want to try and repeat it here. I want to send it to those who know.
Yeah, very good. And which section would it go in? Just in the glossary, in the reference?
There's a bit of yellow in there somewhere where it won't go in the glossary. It'll go in the main bit.
Okay, all right, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else got anything else? Other than that, I'll say thank you, and we'll revisit. George, who do you send the invite out to, or do you not, per se?
I don't do it. It just does it, and it goes out to everybody. We've got, well, I say everybody. I think we've got about 100 people on the list now.
Right, so it goes out to those 100 people every time, does it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that what you want?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. I just wondering. Some people said they hadn't got the document, hadn't got this, hadn't got that, and I wondered where you had got the emails from, or whether they get updated from people who have joined, because I'm not sure we can we back engineer the people who are on these calls to get their emails.
Oh yeah.
Right, it's just making sure we've got everybody who attends.
Yes.
Because I don't think there are those others, but.
Okay, well, I'll get. Hopefully, he's back on Monday, and we'll get him on the case with that. Richard could coordinate that.
Fab. All right, Gov. Thank you all. Thanks, as always. And George, you'll get me. Will you be able to get me to just pull off the?
I'll get it
from it.
I won't. Like you, I didn't set the meeting up, but I'll be able to get. I'll be able to get it to you. Yeah.
Fabulous. Wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you all. Have a great weekend. See you next week. Okay. Same place.
Cheers. Ciao.
Bye. Ciao.
Thank you. Bye.
Ciao.